All right, well, welcome everybody to 30 Minutes with Mark. My name is Mark Stepp. I am the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve and your host for today's webinar. For the past several years, we have talked about relationship scores, and we've talked about rFactor and the value that it has in your business. And I started thinking, we really have not gone into an in-depth look at what builds that relationship score. I'd gotten a message from Neil, one of our new members of the Realvolve team, and he was asking, what is relationship score and what is rFactor and how does that go into the factor of contacts? And so I wanted to just spend a little bit of time today going through that in this session. So relationships and rFactors. So what we've done within Realvolve is, if you look at the upper right-hand corner of any contact that's in your database, you're going to see this donut hole of sorts in the upper right-hand corner that has a number in the center and a bunch of pie pieces that outline some of the information about category and time and relationships. And there's several different aspects of that particular scoring mechanism that we put together. And really what it does is it tracks the quality of the relationship with that contact. What is the overall score of that contact? And that scoring mechanism is built up by all these different elements, and we're going to go through those different elements and just kind of talk about them, what they mean, how they interact with the things that you do on a day-to-day basis within Realvolve. One of the things that we wanted to do whenever we were developing Realvolve was we wanted to have Realvolve as not just a repository of data. A lot of CRMs that are out there are just holding data. You know, they use it for a glorified label printer or label maker, or you want to look up a name or a number. You can certainly do that. But whenever you think about a contact management system, a contact relationship manager, there's lots of different names for them. They all have that relationship in there, but I'm actually here to say most of them have very little to do with managing relationships. They really just hold the contacts. And what we wanted to do was do something a little bit different. So that's kind of where the relationship score was born. It was brought up by the concept or the idea of doing something a little bit different. So we're going to go through the different parts. The first one that I want to go through is time. One of the fields that we have in the database is the year that you put the contact into the database. Of course, we have the data entry field for how long have you known this person. We also know when you put that person into the database. So if it's coming in from the data, from a lead generation website or something like that, the date that you enter that contact is the actual day that gets put into the time field. How long have you known this person as far as the year? So the reason why we need this information is, just think about it. If somebody's coming into your database and you've only known them for maybe a few weeks, maybe a day, or you look at those contacts in your database and you see that you've known them for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there's a different way you treat people based off of that time. If you have known somebody for 20 years, I've got a really good friend of mine, Ken Robinson, and whenever we communicate, it's like we pick up right where we left off. We've known each other for so long that it's not a necessity, necessarily, to have to go in and communicate with him weekly. Now, we like to and we want to, but it's not something that's a necessity to your business to do it that frequently. In fact, he'd probably say, "Mark, you're calling me too much. Dude, I love you and all, but let's figure out, some gap here between talking." So, but if you've got somebody that is brand new, if you wait a couple weeks, they will have forgotten you. So the time aspect of keeping track of when you first got to know this person and the amount of time that has elapsed from that is important to know. So just realize that whenever you're putting in the information for years known, that's where that comes from and why you need that, or years since. The other field that we incorporate into that relationship score is the category. Now, a lot of people see the category, it's the little A, B, C, D, right below the photo of a contact. That A, B, C, D is your perceived grade or your perceived importance of that contact to you. You may have two friends that are equally friends, but you may do more with one or the other, and you might personally think that one is just a little bit better of a friend. You could do it that way. So you could specify it through this grading aspect. The way I actually prefer describing this is the A group, your people that are in your A group might be people that you've done a lot of business with. You've done multiple transactions with them. You have been given a lot of referrals from them. Somebody that has actually contributed to your business in a bigger way would be an A. Those people that are Bs could be maybe they've done one transaction with you or given you one referral. They're still important, but not quite as important as possibly the As. The Cs are people that maybe you've not done any business with, but you want to, and you want to be marketing to them and doing things with them, but they're kind of in their own category. And then Ds would maybe be, I say it this way a lot, those people that you've done business with before, but man, you don't want to do it again. They were tough to work with. You would rather refer those people out the next time it comes around. And that is a way of using it. Is that the only way? Absolutely not. You could use that category field any way you want. But the one thing that you want to realize is that A's are better than B's, B's are better than C's, and C's are better than D's. In doing that, we assign a value, your personal value, to the relationship scoring mechanism to make sure that your concept of a person's importance is included in that scoring mechanism. So that's an important one. The next part that's figured into this is the stage. What stage is a person at? There's really 4 categories of the stages. There are aware, know, like, and trust. The best way to describe this is those people that are aware of you, they maybe have just got onto your website, they just filled out a form, they are aware that you're in the real estate business, but that's about all they know. They don't know you. They don't know exactly what you can do for them. The next phase of that stage that they will go through is from the communication that goes back and forth between you. Once they are aware of your business, you're going to be starting to do communication, sending emails, sending text messages, making phone calls, actually building that relationship. They'll go into the know stage. They're going to know what you can do for them, how you can benefit their life. At some point through that process, the light's going to click and they say, yeah, I like this guy. Now, if they don't like you, that's a problem. But at some point, hopefully they like you, and that would move you to the next stage. People that do business with you, they do that because they like you. So how does this contact feel about you? The next stage of that is trust. And trust is where you want to get with everybody. You want to go from that like stage to the trust. And typically, that phase change, that stage change, is through doing multiple transactions with you, through doing more stuff with you, through giving you referrals. So you can move a person through the different stages of their relationship with you, and it's really how do they feel about you, of aware, know, like, and trust. And it's important to go through those stages. As they progress through those stages, there is a natural progression of the contact status. The status itself typically starts at a suspect. Now, the terminology that we use is some terminology that I have gathered through lots of different training aspects, through real estate coaches and things. So we've incorporated it in this methodology. These statuses are not changeable. They're in there this way for a reason. But people ask, what are those statuses? So the statuses start off with suspect. This is the person that they are aware. It goes back to that stage side, but they come in with a status of suspect. It's just a name in the database. They don't know a lot about you. You don't know a lot about them either. Okay. So again, through that natural progression of communication, of emails and text messages and phone calls, they're going to start increasing their stage. At the same time, they'll start moving into a different status. From the suspect, you're going to send them information. They're going to give you back information, and now you're going to kind of know what they're needing. What is it? Are they buying? Are they selling? And moving from suspect to prospect just means that you're getting a little bit more information. You don't know yet whether you can help them, but you're starting to get that information of what is it that they need. At some point, once they become a prospect, you now know, hey, I can help these people. I can make it so that I can sell their property. I can buy their help a buyer buy a property. It just kind of depends on what their need is, and they become a lead. That lead is still nurtured. You're going to still be making communication until they finally sign on the dotted line. Do they list with you? Do they become a buyer client? At that point, they go from lead to client. Now you're going to be in a client status for a while through that progression of that listing or that transaction. During that time, again, you're going to have lots of communication, lots of things going on until closing day. Okay, once closing day comes, everything is signed, all the paperwork is done, checks change hands, all the bills are paid, all that kind of stuff, and then they become a past client. They are no longer an active client, but they're a past client. And it's important to put people into past clients so that you know that you can start going through some other nurturing type of communication through email, through text, through phone calls and stuff. But it's a different phase. It's a different thing that you're going to be doing. You're going to do maybe monthly communication with them through emails, newsletters, things like that. And it's important to keep your name in front of them, but at the same time, know that at some point they may refer business to you, or they may want to do another transaction. They could be an investor, and that investor wants to buy more properties through you. So that whole suspect, prospect, lead, client, past client status is important. And then they start going through that loop, of going between client, past client, past client. They kind of go back and forth, back and forth. So where are they in your business at that point? So that's really what status is, and that's figured into the relationship score. We do, and this is a fairly recent field that we've added, dealing with contact type. We had a lot of people say, well, I've got a lot of people in my database, but not all of them are people that would actually do business with me, and you're figuring that into the relationship score. And I thought, well, that is a good point. So what we did is we added a new field in the database called contact type. Contact types are client, people that you want to be a client or are a client, agent, anybody that's a real estate agent that you're going to possibly do business with, in that they may be the buyer's agent or the seller's agent or whatever. So it's important to distinguish them in a little bit different manner, because they're not necessarily going to refer business to you. They could. They could be an out-of-state agent and referring business to you, which is a little bit different situation. But if they're in your town and you're doing transactions together, that contribution to your business is a little bit different. You've got farming groups. You've got personal, like family members and stuff like that are more personal. A new one which is coming, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in the list here, called Prospect. It's similar to farm, but it's not exactly client, so it's kind of an in-between. And then you've got your vendors. That's your accountants, your lawyers, your lenders, your appraisers, all the different people that help you through a transaction. So who's doing that business with you? And that's what the contact type. And those, again, help determine what is figured into that relationship score. The scoring mechanism is accumulated, but it also factors in what I'm going to describe also is our rFactor. Relationship scores and rFactors are two different things. Whenever you're talking about an rFactor, it's kind of the overall look or scope of your database, and that's going to be a concentration of your clients, your farm, your personal, and your prospects, leaving out those agents and vendors that are in there. So your scoring mechanism will be a little bit different for those two, the agent and the vendor. We do look at referral count, and basically that's, you know, who's referring you. If you've got somebody that refers a lot of people to you, that's where that trust factor came in of the stage. Aware, know, like, and trust. They trust you, trust your business ethics. They trust that you're going to represent them well. If they're going to refer you, it's going to be important that you represent them well. And they do repeat business with you or referral business with you because they trust you, and that's an important one. So that's figured into the relationship score. Now the details. There are a lot of details in the database, and again, going back to other CRMs, other databases that are out there, they have fields for data, and that's all it is. It's just data, and typically they don't do anything with it. What Realvolve does is a little bit different. What we do is we look at the type of data, the quantity of that data, and where did that data possibly come from? Is it what I might classify Google data? You know, I could go out there and I could Google your name, and in Googling that name, I could you know, find some basic information about you, and I could put that into the database. Does that mean I have a relationship with you? Not at all. What it means is that I know where to get data. But if I start collecting data like, you know, who's your spouse, what's your kids' names, what's their birthdays, what's your spouse's birthday, when was your anniversary, that type of stuff is more private type information. What I might call, instead of Google data, I might call it more like Facebook friend data. Information that I would have gotten from more of having a more personal relationship with. And the more quantity of that information, the better the score becomes as well. So we are looking at not only the explicit data, there's two types of data, explicit data and implicit data. We're not only looking at the explicit data that you're putting into it, we're also gathering and looking at that information and figuring out what kind of explicit information can we gather from that you're collecting. So that's an important, very important piece of the pie whenever we're talking about that relationship score. Exactly how much data do you have, and what is that good data versus Google data that I like to say, or public data that's available out there. So that's a big piece in there. Lifetime value. Now, a lot of people will track lifetime value. We've got some pieces that are in the works to help automate this. This one is one that it's not fully implemented, but it is there in a way. And what we're doing is we're looking at what is the lifetime value of this contact in your database. How much money have they contributed to your business? And think about this. the lifetime value of a person isn't necessarily the transactions that they did with you. It could also be the referrals and their transactional values, their commissions off of those referred pieces that you did of business. So we're looking at the lifetime value of the contact, but also the referral that they may have given, or the referrals and the value that those have added. So somebody that has referred a lot of business to you, and that business has added up, the lifetime value of that person then goes significantly higher. So some good stuff there. Engagement. Engagement is another one of those key aspects of that relationship score. And what we're looking at in engagement is the sending and receiving of communication. If we look at the emails that you have sent, the text messages that you've sent, the social media, the Twitter tweets that you have sent, are those people opening them? Are they reading them? Are they replying to them? Is there engagement back and forth? If you send a monthly email to somebody and they don't open it, they don't reply to it, they don't look at it, is there engagement? Absolutely not. What does that tell you? That tells you that either one of two things. It tells you either your messages are getting put into a spam filter and they're not seeing them, or it tells you that they have little interest. So there's some things there that you can deal with. If you've been sending stuff and they're not getting replies, things aren't happening, we look at how can we help you identify those people and be able to engage with them in a different manner. Maybe they're not getting emails, but maybe you need to call them instead, text messages, stuff like that. So engagement is the sending and receiving of communication both ways, making sure that they are engaging with you. Bonding. One of my mentors was talking, Rick Ruby, he's a lender out of Michigan. Actually, I think they moved down to North Carolina some time ago. He talks about breaking bread. What are the things that you're doing with this contact? And what we do is looking at your calendar where you have meetings or meals. There's a meals type thing where are you having breakfast with your clients? Are you having lunches or dinners with clients? Are you doing things to build a bond with that contact, breaking the bread with that contact? And that is an important piece that's factored into it. If you're going out and meeting with clients, it's one thing, but if you sit down and have a 30-minute meal with somebody, breakfast or lunch or something like that, better communication happens. One-on-one type things that don't necessarily happen whenever you're just in a meeting room or something like that. So breaking bread is an important piece, and that's that bonding aspect of it. Relationship. Relationship is a small a wedge of the relationship score. It's not just one aspect of it, but it's the how close are you to a person, and that could also be proximity close. Are you right next to somebody in maybe some kind of a building that you're doing? But it also can be how close are you with a person, kind of meeting heart to heart. How close are you? And there's the concept of propinquity. How close are you to somebody? And the closer you are to somebody, maybe you go to church together, maybe you are in some of the same clubs together. Having those types of relationships where you're physically in proximity with somebody, meaning you're close to them, helps build a relationship as well, and that goes into that relationship score. Somebody that you see, every Monday because you have, Toastmasters or whatever with each other, that helps that, and that relationship helps do more business. That's an important one as well. Then we look at intensity. You can see all these different things are built into this relationship score, and so many people don't realize what all it does, and there's a lot to it. The intensity of things that you're doing. So we look at your calendar and your emails, and we look at the importance that you have placed on certain appointments, and the importance, like there's priority items in email. If it's a high priority email, it's more important. And that places a high emphasis in your business. If you're working with somebody and you're sending them a lot of emails that are extremely important, now it could be very much, you could be going through a transaction with them right now, and some of those intensity items are being raised because of that, and that's just a key indicator. But there could be other things that you're doing within your calendar, within your emails, and your importance to them is being portrayed through the types of calendar items and email items, that the importance of those that you've placed on those. If that makes sense. We also look at the reply intensity. Not only do we look at your importance that you've placed on the individual activity or email, but let's think about how quickly the reply intensity, how quickly do they reply to something. If I'm sending out a message to somebody and they, bam, send an instant reply back, that means there's some high emphasis in your business, some high emphasis in the importance of that particular aspect of your business, and they want to do more with you, possibly. If you send out an email and you don't get a reply for a week or 2 weeks or ever, you know that reply intensity means that, again, there's some not so important things happening in that relationship between you two, and that's something else that we look at. Then we look at also the frequency. How often, using a clustered algorithm that I've come up with, this clustered algorithm looks at the past 14 days and the next 14 days. What are the things that you're doing with this person? If you've got a transaction going, there's going to be a lot of activities happening within that 28 days, that 30-day window. And we know that things have happened, and it continues to happen in the future. And the more that more clustered of activities that are in that calendar, the more important that person is to you. If they are a current client, they're currently going through a transaction with you, they're at the top of your list because you want to make sure that you treat them well, that you answer all their questions, that you do the things that you need to do so that down the road that relationship stays high, even whenever communication may go low. You have built up that rapport with that person because you stayed in communication with them during that whole aspect. So the frequency of communication is extremely important. So the last thing that we want to talk about in this is really the scoring decay. A score decay basically means what are the things that could reduce my score? And we look at different things based off of the number of either hours, months, or weeks in things that you need to do. Think about this. If you know somebody's birthday and they're important to you, you send them a birthday card, right? Or make a phone call or something like that. What if you don't call them and they're expecting it? Something that maybe you've made comments before that you do, and you don't call them, you don't send them an email or something. That communication then, the lack thereof anyway, could start reducing your score. So what we'll do is take, for instance, n divided by 12 and put that into a percentage of reducing that score. So the longer you wait to do something with somebody, the more that reduction in score happens. So not only can your scores go up based off of doing stuff, they can also go down by not doing stuff. So make sure that you're constantly doing things with your customers. So the remaining part of this webinar, we're just kind of going to think about the rFactor aspect of this. If we look back at all these different pieces of the puzzle, time, category, stage, status, contact type, details, lifetime value, engagement, bonding, relationship score, intensity, reply intensity, frequency, scoring decay, these are all things, all the different things that factor in to a single person, a single contact in your database. Now let's take a step back and let's look at your database as a whole. And we start looking at all these different numbers that are being generated. We look at the different types of people that you've got in your database. We look at, is it filled with a lot of leads? And I have nothing against, lead generation, making sure that you've got, a steady slew of leads coming in. But if your entire database is just leads, then you're in a much lower score on everybody that's in your database. You've not done a lot of things that you could have done possibly to build that relationship. And as that relationship starts to build, the number of people that you're communicating with and all these score mechanisms are kicking into play, the relationship scores start going up and up and up. The rFactor will be a higher score. So whenever we look at, I'm going to go back to I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to go into a screen here for contacts. And what we want to do is look at this rFactor. Now this is a training database. It has a few contacts, and there's not a lot in there. It looks at the rFactor, all those different aspects, and assigns that rFactor. We can click on that, and we can look at how's that rFactor figured and kind of broken up by numbers of the statuses of suspects, prospect, leads. We factor in some of the numbers of these contacts. We look at the different things that go along with that, and we assign it this rFactor. This rFactor then helps us to identify the predicted number of transactions I should be able to do out of that database, and then based off of some historical information on my year-to-date commissions and the average commissions, how much of the predicted revenue should I be able to get out of those 9 transactions. And there is a factor that we have figured out that helps identify that, and that factor, that scoring mechanism really holds true in a lot of cases. Now, could that rFactor, the result of that rFactor in the predicted number of transactions be higher? Absolutely. Could it be lower? Absolutely. What it's going to do is give you a very good estimate on what you should be able to do. It's not set in stone, though. And what I have a lot of people doing is saying, okay, I see that score, I understand that score, but I want to beat that score. And trying to beat that score, making sure that you get above that number, is the goal for the year. Making sure that you get above that predicted revenue is the goal. So they put their own gamification in there, and that's really important. So the relationship scores are individual contact record scoring mechanism, where the rFactor is looking at your entire database as a whole and helping you predict the number of transactions that you can do with it. So that is pretty much what I wanted to cover. In another part of this, I'm going to go over the cross section and exactly how to use this. This is going to be a different webinar. But all of those, the aware, know, lack, and trust, and the suspect, prospect, lead, client, past client, help figure out this cross section and who you need to be contacting and why. And this is an extremely important piece. But just I've really kind of gone over on our time for our 30-minute session here. But I wanted to really show you the importance of why Realvolve is so different than other CRMs. It's because our relationship score and our rFactor. It's not just a lead score. There's a lot of lead score people that look at, how frequently do they go to a website and stuff like that, which is similar, but what we're doing is we're really honing in, laser focused on that relationship that you are building with that person. The more you do with them, the higher the score. The less you do with them, it'll start going down. And that constant change in that relationship is what we have to monitor, and we're going to monitor that through the contact cross-section, and you'll hear more about that later. So hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send emails to support@realvolve.com. We'll be happy to answer those. I hope you guys have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.